Hi, good day, and thank you for joining me. As you roll through your spine, connect with the mat, reach your arms back, and throughout all these exercises, you'll be taking deep breaths in through the nose, exhale through the mouth. In our first movement, it's pelvic tilts. Squeeze the spine onto the floor as you exhale, and as you inhale, expand a neutral spine, which means that your spine will be hollowed out a bit, your lower back lifting off the mat. Deep breaths through all the movements is very beneficial. A forward curl, where you hold a neutral spine, so you've got a very slight opening or softening in your lower back. Hands behind the head. And as you exhale, you're lifting your head and shoulders up, curling forward towards your thighs. Remember, you exhale on the rotation. Here you're trying to hold the neutral spine. The legs stay steady as you lift and rotate the upper back. With most of the movements, I've kept it down to 6 each side or 6 forward crunches, just for you to feel each exercise before we start our journey any further. A single leg extension, keeping the arms high, the elbows, pulling the knee in, extending the opposite leg, keeping the torso steady, and then rolling down to the mat. The feet connect and into tabletop, which means 90 degrees behind the knees. Arms extended to the side of the body, and you curling up on the exhalation and inhale as you move your body down to the mat. If at any time any of these exercises feels too much or strenuous into your lower back, it just means that you should still be building a little bit more strength into the core before you attempt any of these exercises. But I would say that it would be easier to place the feet onto the mat rather than keep them to tabletop. So that's an adjustment you can make for these abdominal movements. The next movement is a double leg extension with reaching the arms behind you. If your core is not all that strong, I would suggest just keep to a single leg extension as you've done before. Always check in with your body. If you feel any discomfort or pain, stop, adjust, or leave the movement out. Stretch the legs, the arms out so you're flat on the mat. Take a deep breath in and lift the leg towards you. So you're doing one leg at a time, lifting up as you crunch forward. And everybody's flexibility is different. You may need to bend your knees. Exhale as you crunch and reach forward. And inhale as you draw your body down. Place the feet hip distance apart with the feet connected onto the mat. And here we're going to curl the pelvis up off the floor and roll the vertebrae up one at a time and release down one at a time. It's a soft, slow movement through the spine, bringing in more length. And in this position, you want to keep most of your weight into your feet and not draw the weight to your shoulders. So you're keeping the chest quite flat. And with Pilates, If you do know this, the only thing, if you can remember that in this first session, is the core and pelvic activation. I can also do a separate insert on pelvic and core activation for you, quite short and sweet, but if you need more information, just connect with me. So here we do small squeezes up with the hips. Exhale as you lift and then roll down to the mat. So as you lift up again with the hips, you're going to draw the left knee, then the right knee towards your chest. This may be a little bit intense for your body if you do not have a lot of strength yet. So you may need to work on this a little bit and stick to the first two movements, either rolling up and down through the spine or just pulsing a little bit up and down. So again, just about 6 each side, then draw the knees to the chest. I'm going to do a roll up, either with knees bent as I've shown, or you can assist yourself with your hands. So extend the legs slightly apart, and you're going to roll forward into a spine stretch. You want to bring the chin down to the chest. Keep the arms shoulder height as you reach forward, as you curl through the spine. If you do have any compromised shoulders or neck challenges, injuries, then I would suggest you keeping the hands low towards the mat. So on this movement, you're going to roll down towards the floor. You do not have to go that far. If you're still building abdominal strength, roll and tilt as far as you can, but make sure you're able to come back up. That's very important. And try to keep your feet flexed. And you're doing these movements as you're breathing in or out. You're not holding the breath at any stage. This is called the saw. Going to stretch the arms to the side, rotate and reach forward. It helps a lot when you're doing the breathing correctly. So as you inhale, you come to center. As you exhale, you reach across to the other side. The feet stays flexed. And please do remember, the arm that's reaching back needs to be rotated so that you have less tension in the shoulder. Moving forward into front support, which means on your hands and on your knees. With your hands shoulder width apart and your knees are under the hips, so they are also slightly apart. I'm going to curl the toes up underneath the feet. Lift the knees off the mat just a little bit, about 5 to 8 centimeters as you exhale, and then take the knees back down to the floor, very steady and smooth in your movement. And relax the feet. Slide your shoulder blades down and soften your elbow so that you can feel that the muscles throughout your arm are giving you the support that's required, and you're not going to look for the support into your elbow. So here we're extending the opposite sides as you exhale and inhale, release. And you're aiming your best to bring the hand and the knee down at the same time. It's quite challenging, and when you feel yourself moving to the left or right, try and bring your body back to the center. So as little movement in your starting position as possible. Stretch back. Walk your hands a little bit forward and into a half plank position. And here we're focusing on tricep push-ups, which means you want to bring your elbows as close to your rib cage as possible, holding the line through your spine with core and pelvic activation, bending the elbows as you inhale and draw yourself to the mat, and exhale as you push yourself back up. And again, stretch back just to release into the arms. On the next push-up, I've tilted my fingers slightly in so that when you bend your elbows, you're going to have them float outward. You want to keep the form in your spine, so it's important that you use your core. Taking your body down onto the floor, extend the arms, and you're also going to draw your legs slightly apart. We're lifting the opposite sides up and also taking the head in line with the arm that's being lifted. Your core and pelvic floor stays very tight throughout. You do not want to compromise into your lower back, and if you need to, you can always place a soft and small pillow underneath your pelvis to still bring in some length into the lower back for you. Stacking the hands on top of one another and underneath the forehead. Your legs are slightly externally rotated, allowing your head to lift up off your hands and then drawing your chest away from the floor. So everybody's range will be different here. Check in with your lower back, your core, your pelvic floor, and your breath is an exhale up and an inhale down. Exhale through the mouth, inhale through the nose. And then if you want to take it one step further and you've got the strength, lift your legs and keep your hands glued to your forehead as you lift yourself up off the floor without bending the knees. The movement comes from the hips. If it's all too much, go back to the previous exercise that I'd shown. And a quick stretch just to release into the lumbar spine. Always check in with your body. If you need to stretch, stretch it out. Go back into prone, which is just a nicer way of saying face down on floor. And extend the arms alongside the body. You want to lift up the legs, the arms, the head and the chest. Obviously, if your shoulders are not liking this movement, just keep your hands low, but just a little bit off the mat. You don't need to lift as high with your legs. Just check in with your body. Everybody's going to be different, and I would not have had the opportunity to see you one-on-one to assess what your strengths and weaknesses are. And I don't know your medical history, so always be careful with what you're doing. And this movement, the legs remain off the mat, but if you feel too much tension in your lower back, keep them on the floor. Reach the arms forward, palms up, circle around and lift a little bit higher at the end. And you're lengthening through when you're stretching through your arms or you're lifting through your legs. And after this again, stretch into a resting, or some may know this as a child's pose position. Right, so from your front support position again, elbows slightly softened. You want your shoulder blades to slide down. Stepping back with the left, then the right foot, and back in to draw the knees under the hips. So it's important to keep the hips at the same height, or as close to the same height from start to finish. You almost can rest a cup of tea on your back. And then draw yourself back into an inversion, which is downward facing dog for some, whatever you recognize this as, and then into plank, into inverted V, and plank. Our arms are stable, shoulder blades are sliding down the back. This activates your lateral and stabilizes in your upper back, and spread the weight from your feet through to your arms, so you're not pressing all of your weight onto your arms. Then spiral around into a side plank and plank position. If you have any injuries in your shoulders, your arms are not strong enough, you're also able to do this on your knees. You might not be able to turn as easily. It's going to be time consuming, so you may just want to do one side first and then the other. Or if it's still too challenging, hold the plank in a full plank, in a half plank, and stretch out whenever you need to. Turning onto your side, stack the hips, stack the shoulders. It just means one's on top of the other. And the leg that you are lifting, we're going to keep just about hip height and then circle a little bit higher. Don't forget the breath. Small circles that do not need to be big. What you want to aim for is full control of your movement. Then reversing your rotation. So again, we're working up to 6 circles and then changing to the other direction. You can even use a little pillow under your head instead of the arm. Then pointing and flexing. This movement, you're trying to create a nice, smooth and even movement. And also see that you can connect the breath into your movement. You're not holding the breath as you move. You are breathing when your movement is required. Pulsing up, pulsing without moving the upper body. So it's from your hips down through the leg. And then stretch to release the hip and glute. Turning over onto your other side, and we'll repeat all of that. Again, hips and shoulders stacked, hip height and then circle. And again, 6 each rotation. You're aiming for a fluid movement, so if you feel you're too off balance with bigger circles, make them smaller. I would suggest start with side plate size circles and then work your way from there. So here I've done the pulses, and thereafter it's going to move into pointing through the foot, flexing down. And as you're doing this movement, the upper body stays very still because you're activating the core and pelvic floor to give you that stability. And again, stretching out to release the hip and the glute. Thank you for joining me. Please leave a comment down below.